So, when you watch a driver review online, it's always some pro, right? Swinging at a bajillion miles an hour. And that's awesome for them. But let's be real, it's not super helpful for most of us. Well, this is different. We're going to dig into the data and find the best drivers for folks with, let's call them realistic swing speeds. So let me ask you this. Are you trying to swing harder or smarter? Because what if the secret to hitting it further isn't about trying to swing out of your shoes? What if it's really just about matching the right tech to your swing? Yeah, it's all about swinging smarter, not harder. And today we're going to find out which of these clubs actually helps you do that. Okay, so this whole test, it's designed for real golfers. I'm talking about mid to high handicappers, senior players, the group that, let's be honest, gets kind of ignored in most of these big equipment reviews. So yeah, this one's for you. And look, this really gets to the core of the problem, right? A pro who's swinging at, say, 115 miles per hour is going to get totally different results from a driver than someone like me or you swinging at 85. It's like comparing apples and oranges. So what we wanted to do was close that gap and get you some data that's actually going to be useful for your game. All right, so who are the contenders in today's showdown? We've grabbed 4 of the most forgiving drivers you can buy, and we're putting them head to head. The goal? To see which one comes out on top for slower swing speeds. Let's meet them. Kicking things off, we've got the PING G440 Max. Now, this is a super popular choice, and for good reason. A lot of senior golfers and mid to high handicappers really gravitate towards this one. It's a brand a lot of you out there already know and trust. And hey, that popularity is no accident. Ping's got this amazing reputation for building forgiving, high-performing clubs. So you can bet we were excited to see exactly how the G440 Max would stack up in this particular test. Next up, we have the TaylorMade Qi35 Max, and the big headline here is 10K MOI. Now, MOI just stands for moment of inertia, which is basically a fancy term for how stable the club is. TaylorMade has put all their focus on making this thing as forgiving as possible. So in theory, that 10K head should be just rock solid, even when you don't hit it dead center. Our third contender, well, this one might be a bit of a dark horse. It's the Wilson Dynapower Max. First off, it's a great-looking driver. And, just based on first impressions, we kind of had a feeling this one was going to surprise some people. And of course, you can't have a big driver test without Callaway, right? Of course not. So, rounding out our group is the Callaway Elite X. This is their most forgiving model from their brand new Elite lineup, and it's designed to do one thing really, really well: help you find more fairways. Okay, let's talk about the test itself. To make sure we got really good, reliable data, we had to set up a super controlled environment. The whole point was to make sure we were testing the club's performance, not just a golfer's good or bad day. And here it is, the single most important number for this whole showdown: 85 miles per hour. We locked in the swing speed right there, and trust me, there's a very, very good reason why we picked that exact number. It's because that's the average swing speed for a huge chunk of golfers, especially in that 55 to 70 age range. By testing at this speed, we're making sure the numbers we show you, they're not some fantasy, they're real, and they're directly relatable to the folks these clubs are made for. So, to keep everything on a level playing field, we locked in a few other key rules. We used the same tester for every single shot. We used the same exact model of golf ball, and we made sure that swing speed stayed within a tiny 1 mile per hour window. The goal, again, was to measure the club, not all the other noise. Okay, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. We've set the stage, we've met the contenders, now it's time to dive into the numbers and see how these drivers actually performed. First up, let's talk about the number everyone wants to know: total distance. And wow, was this a tight race. I mean, look at this. The Callaway just squeaked by at 222 yards, with the TaylorMade breathing down its neck at 221. The Ping and Wilson were right there too, at 218 and 217. We're literally talking about a 5-yard difference from first to last place. Incredibly close. But hold on, let's look at carry distance, because this tells a slightly different story. Check this out. The TaylorMade was actually the longest in the air, with 192 yards of carry, even though it didn't win the total distance battle. What does that tell us? It tells us it found that sweet spot of launch and spin to just maximize its hang time. So here's the final leaderboard, and this really gives us the whole picture. You can see how the Callaway got that top spot for total distance. It did it with low spin, so it got a lot of roll. The TaylorMade, on the other hand, used a little more spin, right around 2,400 RPM to get that awesome carry number. And then you have the PING, which had the highest spin of the bunch. That helped it get up in the air easily, but it probably cost it a few yards on the back end. All right, so after all that, what's the final verdict? We've crunched all the numbers, and a couple of drivers definitely stood out from the pack in our 85-mile-per-hour showdown. So, which driver actually won? Well, if we look just at the performance data from our test, 2 of them did manage to pull slightly ahead of the others. And our 2 top dogs were the Callaway Elite X and the TaylorMade Qi35 Max. It was neck and neck. The Callaway won total distance by a single yard. Meanwhile, the TaylorMade was the champ when it came to carry. It just goes to show, they get the job done in slightly different ways. One is a low spin monster, and the other is all about that high launch, high carry flight. And this brings us to probably the single biggest lesson from this whole thing. Do not be afraid of loft. I'm serious. To get those great numbers out of the TaylorMade, we had to crank the loft all the way up to 14 degrees. For golfers with slower swing speeds, adding loft is often the absolute key to getting the right amount of spin and launch to actually maximize your distance. It might feel weird, but the numbers don't lie. And that really brings it all back to the most important question, doesn't it? What's the right driver for your swing? Look, this data is an amazing starting point, but the real answer always comes down to you. Are you a player who needs more spin or less? Do you need help getting the ball in the air? This test proves there are some fantastic options out there, but nothing, and I mean nothing, beats getting a personal fitting to find out for sure which one is going to be the absolute best for your game.